So the idea behind external configuration files, whether they be JSON or XML, is very simple. You're keeping an external file, and that file can be changed by the client so that they can configure how their application behaves. So let's take a look at how that works. So first of all, I'll go into the project and I'll make a new file. Now I'll go with the JSON format, so I'll make config.json here. Okay, so I've got this new file. I'll keep it empty for now and we'll jump back to program. Now, one of the things I would have to change in JSON file is go into properties and make sure it gets copied to the output directory, because that's where we're going to load it from. Okay, so now let's try and set up the scenario that we're going to be using. Scenario is actually very simple. I'm going to have one interface called iOperation, and this interface is going to have just a single method called calculate, which will take two floating point numbers, a and b, and return a floating point number as well. And now we'll implement certain operations. For example, I can implement the addition operation. So addition is going to be an I operation, and in here I'll just return a plus b. And similarly, I will duplicate this and I will make a multiplication operation. So we'll make multiplication, and in this case it's going to be the multiplication sign here. Okay, so we have the iOperation service, we have two classes which can supply the service. Now let's implement the actual program. Now I want to show you something in my Nugget settings. You will see that in my installed packages I have a whopping 43 packages. That's quite a lot, really. And some of these come from Autofac. That's okay. But some of these come from Microsoft Extensions configuration, and this is the package you would have to add in order to be able to work with the Microsoft configurations. Now, in addition, there is another package called Microsoft Extensions Configuration JSON that I also have to add because it supports the JSON format. Now, all of the other Microsoft extension packages, they are automatically included by Microsoft Extensions configuration, so we don't need to do anything there. And this is the setup. So for Microsoft Extensions, you need lots of Nugget packages, and in addition to Autofac, you also need something called autofac.configuration. So once you've got all of these packages together, then you can actually start working. So let me build the program that we're going to demo. So just the static void main as always. Okay, so the setup here is not particularly fast. First of all, we need to use a configuration builder from the Microsoft package, and we're going to use that builder and load up the JSON file. So var config builder equals new configuration builder. Let's complete this, and then I will set the base path to the current directory. So directory dot get current directory. Remember, this is something that you need the copy local for. So that's why when we set the properties of the JSON file, we copy to the output directory. So then you can get it from the current directory. And then you simply call add JSON file. And you specify the file name. In this case, it's config.json, like so. So that's the file loaded up into the Microsoft side of things. And then you build the actual configuration. So you say var configuration equals config builder.build. There we go. Okay, so that's the Microsoft part of things. And now, of course, we need the Autofac side of things. So we say var container builder equals new container builder. There we go. So that's the Autofac container builder. Then we need a configuration module. So var config module equals new configuration module. So the configuration module is that part of Autofac which can actually eat up the Microsoft configuration. So I provide it here in the constructor as configuration, and that's that. Then we take the container builder and we say register module, and we add the configuration module here. Okay, and then we're ready to actually build the container and start using those operations. And from here on out, the operations are the same as they were when you did the whole register type thing. So we're going to do using var container equals container builder dot build. So we build the container, the Autofac container, and then we make a bunch of floating point numbers. Let's say a is equal to 3 and b is equal to 4. And then we cycle through the operations. So we want to enumerate all the iOperation services that are available. So we say for each var, well, let's have explicitly iOperation op in container.resolve, and we're going to resolve an list of operation like so. All right. So we resolve all the possible operation types, and for each one of them we may as well output a bit more information about what's going on. So I'm going to say console.writeLine, and in here we'll have first of all the operation get type name, and then we'll say of A and B is equal to, and then call the operation. So we say operation.calculate with A and B. Okay, now at the moment config.json is empty. It's like an empty file. Let's put a pair of empty curly braces here, but I can still run this. I mean, this is going to run just fine, and it will simply give me absolutely nothing because at the moment the JSON file is empty, so there isn't a single service that's actually been registered there. So let's go into config.json and register something. So here what I'm going to do is I'm going to define the default assembly, and the default assembly is going to be the assembly that will be used for looking for particular types, because you can always describe a type as a pair, assembly and the type, or you can have a default assembly, in which case you just write the types. So here the default assembly in our case is called artifact samples, and then we define the actual components. So components, colon, and then there's going to be a list, so square brackets, like so. Okay, and then in curly braces, we'll have the definitions of the different components. So the first component has the type defined as artifact samples.addition, and it is providing a certain service. It's providing the service operation. So let's actually define that. Here we specify services, colon, and once again, services is a list, and one service will have a type of artifact samples.operation. There we go. Okay, so this is the first component, and then the second component is pretty much the same. I'll just copy this over because then we'll have multiplication. Okay, so these are my components. You can see that each one of them specifies a type as well as the services that they provide. And that's pretty much it. So what we can do now is run this thing again. And now you can see in the output that we're getting addition of 3 and 4, which is equal to 7, and multiplication of 3 and 4, which is equal to 12. So as you can see, it's very easy to actually define these types of files and have them loaded up into the system using something like the Microsoft configuration extensions.